everyone, and welcome back to my sewing room. If you're new to my channel, my name's Diane and I like to share the stories of the quilts that I make. I'm based in the heart of England and I have a very small sewing room. I'm grateful to have a room dedicated to my hobbies, and so I have this little space and I make mainly quilts. And I make those quilts for myself, my family. I have a shop, a folksy shop, which you can find in the description, link to that. And I make a lot of quilts for Project Linus, which is a charity which is very dear to my heart. And so, no, no pun intended. There we go. That's the one I'm working on at the moment. So that is a Project Linus quilt. Also from the high tech and everything, as you can see, I am a one-man band. So I record the videos, I take images of the quilts that I make, and then I edit, which takes quite a while, you know, and they're not of the highest quality. I just record on my phone. But we have a lovely little community here. I'm sorry I've been away for so long. I went to visit my sister in Spain and I had a lovely time. And when I got back, there was things to catch up with, and I've just had the call of the wild. I've wanted to be outside. And so I've been going for lots of walks and things like that. So sewing has sort of been relegated to an evening, and sometimes I'm tired, but I will share with you the things that I'm making. Now, if you've seen some of my earlier shows this year, you saw that I was following Marian's World. Excuse me. Marian's World is a lady that lives in the north of England, and she's a very creative lady. She has two channels. She has a gardening channel and she also has a crafty channel, and she does lots of sewing and embroidery. She's a very skilled embroiderer, and I was sort of taken with her Winter Garland. I only found her, like I say, at the beginning of this year, and she started making another new Winter Garland. She has one already that she puts up at Christmas time, and she said she's going to create another one, calling it the Winter Garland. And we never know what's going to go on to this garland. She makes one thing a month, and I thought, I'll join that. Now, women of a certain generation in the UK, when you got to about, I think it was about 9 or 10, you were given in domestic science, it was called, and that was everything to do with the home, basically. We were given a piece of fabric, I suppose it was about that size, and it was for a table mat, and it was an open weave fabric, and you learnt lots of different embroidery stitches. So you'd start off with the blanket stitch, you went all the way around, and then running stitches and chain stitches and cross stitches and all sorts of little basic stitches until you completed this open weave full of stitches, and there you had a little table mat. And so I learned the basics quite young, and then I did some cross stitch. I've done some embroidery as I've got older, but then nothing since. And I thought, I'd like to go again. So that little waffle really is to sort of explain my lack of skills. The things that I'm making with Marian, they're not very highly skilled pieces of work. But I'm loving it. I'm really enjoying revisiting these skills, learning new stitches. I'd never completed a pistol stitch before, which is really a long stitch with a French knot on the end. And she's a really good teacher. She's very patient. She's very calm. And she's quite creative with everything that she does. So she says it doesn't matter, you can make it your own, which is really freedom. And so I thought, yeah, I think I'll have a go with that. So before I went away, the first thing we made for January was a little robin. and I think the intention was to hang it on a garland. My poor little Robin, his head's a little bit flat, but he's my Robin, so I like him, so he's the first thing that we made. And then she started to give us February's, which were some leaves, which I'll share with you in a minute. But I decided that I wouldn't do them. I would just take the notes and see what she was doing, collect the materials, and I would take them with me to visit my sister. And then of an evening, if I had a few minutes, I would sew these. So this is what I've done. So the second month, February, we were to make 3 leaves. So an ivy leaf, and she was joining 2 pieces of fabric together with different stitches. So a little ivy leaf running stitch and an oak leaf. This is just felt and different sorts of cottons. And then this is a spruce twig on a white background. I keep thinking it looks like a cacti. But anyway, she says make it your own. And I just thought I would make an extra oak leaf, oops, that way. So, because I was thinking, she says you can hang them and put them together however you want. Sometimes she says, you know, you can put them into a garland, or you could put them together on a wreath or something. I don't know how these will all fit together. So I was thinking I'll just have a balance by making another one. And then I quite like the robin by the ivy. I might put that somehow on there. The reason I like the robin and the ivy connection is we had robins nest in an ivy arch that I've got in the garden, and I was watching those and they seem to have been successful. They all left the nest while I was away. They were healthy while I was here, eating very well, and they've all gone now, although I am visited by robins on a daily basis. So there's those. And then she made a hellebore. So that was the pistol stitch on there. I'm not sure if you can just see those. So a hellebore with a leaf on the back. She turned one of these into a brooch, which I think was quite nice. And then she, last month in, what are we in, April? In April, April's was gingerbread biscuits. So she made a brown heart. So I did that. And then she also made a star, and then she made a round gingerbread with a white ice top with stitches on. I haven't made the other ones yet, but I did think I'd want to make a red heart. Just because. And so I've got 2 gingerbread hearts, a bit heavy on the cochineal, I think. That one. So that's what I've been doing in Spain. And if you're interested in anything like that, have a look, because she's brilliant, absolutely fantastic to watch. So that's what I've been doing there. I've got another little box for those now. And then when I came back, there was lots of gardening things to do. So I needed to deadhead, and all the spring tulips and daffodils had gone over. So tidy up around the garden. And then I came into my sewing room and I thought, what shall I do? Because this year I've started sewing in a completely different way. I've got projects on the go, which is a way I never used to work. I used to start one, finish it, buy the fabric for that, and then, you know, process what was left. Well, 2 things changed, I think, this year. One, I discovered Rainbow Fabric, which is a dead stock company, and they have really reasonable dead stock cottons, quilting cottons, all sorts of fabrics, but they have a nice selection that comes in sporadically as they obtain them. And so I buy those, and so I've started having a collection of fabrics, and so I've been inspired to make different things, and so I've got different projects on the go. So I had made this in January, I think it was. I started the year. This is a Project Linus one. So when I came back, I thought, well, I'm going to finish some of these flimsies that I have. And this one day I decided I will, I'll show you a better one hanging on the line. It'll be easier. But for explanation purposes, all I did with this was I got all of the odd blocks that I had and I put them together. I just thought I'll just put all of these together to make a nice bright quilt, and there's all sorts in here. And so I'd made it, and I really like the look of the front. It's like big and bold, and I didn't know how I was going to quilt it. I quilt everything on my domestic sewing machine, and I often use like a simple cross hatch or stitch in the ditch, things like that, just straight stitches. And then I thought, well, there's no blocks for me to follow for something like, if I step back you can see, there's no sort of quilt design that I can follow stitch wise. I'm not one for having to draw lines and things like that. And so I thought, well, I want to use up the batting that I've got. The ends of batting I keep and I sew them together, and I often put those in Project Linus quilts. I use 100% cotton, so it's nice quality batting and it sews together okay. And so I thought I will sew some of that together and I will quilt it. So what I did, I'll show you this. I'll try and get a shot of this on the line. So I really enjoyed sewing this. Started from the centre, and I think you can just sort of see the lines. And I followed the seam lines going round. So where there was a block of triangles, I just followed those. And yeah, and then I went back, made sure all the seams were secure. So I really enjoyed sewing that and quilting that, which was a job I was putting off because I just thought, how on earth will I make that? I don't know. So quilted that, and so that will go off to Project Linus. There's a label on that. And then I thought that sort of gave me a framework from where I want to go next, because if you're away from your room, I think you come back with two sort of sets of mind. One, you either know exactly what you want to do and it's all, you know, vying for position, which one you do first, or you're like me, I was thinking, I just don't know what to do. The choice was too great. So I thought, well, what I will do is use up the batting. So my intention is to put all the batting strips together, make enough sizes so I can make some more Project Linus quilts. And so this one on the wall at the moment is my next project. That's what I sort of landed on. And earlier in the year I made a heart quilt, and there was some extra half square triangles left over, and so I thought, well, I'll put those all together, and I made that little centerpiece without the band on. I just made the heart with the edging, because there are some grey and pink fabric that surround that heart, which I'd had for quite a while. It's a French fabric, grey and red hearts, and I didn't know what to do with it, and I wanted to use it in something. And I just bordered it with that. There was enough to border that heart. And then I put another border around that in the batik, the red batik. And that gives me now the size where I can put two hearts on the top and the bottom and the sides, and then the four corners. And I think with a little border, that'll be a nice size for Project Linus. And so at the moment, on the floor behind me, I have lots and lots of reds and whites and pinks, all scrappy half square triangles, and that's what I'm going to be doing this week. So that is everything. I'm sorry it's been such a while, but there's not enough hours in the day. People often comment that I manage to get quite a lot of work done in my sewing room, and sometimes I do, but not at the moment. At the moment, I'm looking outside and thinking, oh, I'm just going to pop out and do that, and then before you know it, 2 or 3 hours have passed. And so that's it for this week. I'll show you the garden. If I'm putting images on the garden to show you anything, I usually put it at the end of the video. So I know some people like to see the garden and some people don't. So some people just want to see these little quilty things. I will put a note of what this quilt was called. It was called the Wonky Quilt, and the date that video came out, so that if you want to see how this one came together, using up, if you've got odd bits of blocks or odd scraps of fabric that you've been putting together, you know, it's just a way that I stumbled across to make that work in a nice, colourful, bright quilt. So enjoy your weekend, enjoy your sewing, enjoy your garden if you like to garden. Have a look at Marian's World if you're keen on doing a little bit of freehand embroidery. I'm rambling now, so I better get on. I am expecting a delivery of fabric. If that comes, I'll show you what that is before I start editing. Okay, take really good care of yourselves, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!